not so much with smaller pieces that I do in the studio, but with those installations. This is, when I was putting this together, I was thinking, and this talk together, I was thinking about what it is, why I use those materials. And I grew up in what I call a make, do and mend household, where my mother recycled everything. And this is from her sewing collection. So, everything was reused and recycled. And we used to joke that she had there was a world shortage of yogurt cartons because they were all in her kitchen cupboard. This is a map made of, she also made all our clothes, and so I learnt to sew at home from a very young age and learnt how a dressmaking pattern worked. And the fact that they are sort of maps of the body, really, and also they look like maps. They look like shipping maps with shipping lanes where the darts and pleats and things are. They look like shipping lanes and things. And so I used, this is called Pattern of the World, and it was a show there at the V&A. And I painted it with tea and coffee, so that it's all dressmaking patterns, but painted with tea and coffee. And it's a map of the world. And it's based on the Mercator projection, and so, which is quite inaccurate. And so I did use things like at the bottom of Africa, it says shorten or lengthen here. So sort of playing with those languages, of mapping, dressmaking patterns, and the material I was using as well, sort of playing with those languages. This is South America, made of used coffee filters. And I started making dresses out of maps a few years ago. I thought that maps seemed to me, a lot of maps, especially historic maps, seem to be a very sort of male language. And so I thought by making maps of them, I could somehow sort of feminize dresses out of them, I could somehow feminize the map. So I got all sorts of maps. These are cycling maps of London and motorway maps. Motorway maps make a great train. And this is, I was also looking at historically at dresses, particularly colonial British dresses that were worn when the British Empire was quite sort of powerful in about the 1850s, 1870s. And a lot of the dresses would not only talk about wealth and power, but also about where you came from. So this was a style of a dress from the area of Britain, Newcastle upon Tyne. And this dress was actually made of 2 atlases that was inspired by Central America because it makes a beautiful shoulder strap. And the north coast of Africa, it just sort of seemed like a neckline. So I was just playing with the kind of anatomy, the idea of anatomy and mapping. And this is an empire dress, which is of all maps of the British Isles, but made so that where it gathers in the middle is made of ordnance survey maps, which are very sort of cloth-like, and the bottom is Michelin maps, which make great frills. So there were a lot of formal concerns. This is my studio a couple of years ago. I was making dresses out of maps, but also out of rice paper that I got when I was in Taiwan, because, and these are the sort of things I look at. This is an image of the major mountain ranges of the world and the major rivers of the world, which to me looked like veins at first when I saw them, and the British Empire in the 1920s, which all feeds into the series of work that is in the gallery downstairs. I went to do a residency in Taiwan and spent quite a lot of time working with calligraphy and scrolls and looking at subway maps, particularly of Asian cities, which interested me. So this is Taipei and Hong Kong, and this is stitched on calligraphy paper again. I think you probably all recognize that image. And I was cutting up maps. These were, which is where the piece on the window here, River of Blood, came from. These were maps of Taipei City, which is a grid system, so they have quite a different feeling, although they still, I think, look like veins and arteries. But they also, when I made small ones and put them together, they looked a bit like calligraphy as well, like another language, I suppose. So, and then this is the first one of London that I made, which was actually from a bus map of South London. So you can see the sort of details, and that very much looked like veins and arteries, I thought, to me. So that's where the piece downstairs came from. I made quite a few of these, cutting them out with a scalpel, different areas, different cities, different parts of London, and then we decided to blow that up on a big scale for the piece in Rivington Place here, and I decided to use the Thames because we all kind of recognise it, and it's very close to here. And they are maps of London, generally of this area of London. Steph, who's here in the audience, helped me to put it onto Illustrator and work the maps on a much bigger scale. So it wasn't cut out with a scalpel anymore. This is done on a computer and then printed out and cut on a laser printer and stuck on the window. So it's just a different method of working, but quite a nice opportunity because it was a commission to make it, to work with an idea I'd started with a while ago and then make it on a much bigger scale and much more ambitious and put it into a slightly different context as well. Anyway, I'm just going to swiftly move on. Just a few more recent pieces made of computer components. This was in Taipei, and they reminded me very much of, made me think of cities, especially Asian cities that are built very quickly without planning, and also the idea that computer boards look like cities as well. They look like maps, and they are actually, you know, just arteries of information really, in the way that roads are arteries for energy to pass through, for people to pass through. And the works that I made, I realised, looked like the local architecture in Taiwan particularly. And then I got an opportunity to work with them again in Houston and made this map of America. And I was fortunate to have a lot, so I could play with them and make a map out of lots of different kinds of components. So these are all high-end, and so you've got sort of lots of gold and precious metals in it. And I used it, it was very much, you know, in the middle is the sort of bread belt, and then the deserts are in red, and the northeast is this blue, so it's a sort of political as well as a sort of climate map, I suppose. And this is the latest piece I've made with computer components. Not a map at all, but they're all sort of stitched together. This is 8 meters high, and it's in a deconsecrated church in York. It's called Flood. And combining the computer components with maps, again, which are made of money. I'll quickly go through these, but they're all sort of money maps that I've made recently. This is the quilt that's at the V&A, and it's sort of quite a nice material. This is called Who Are We? There's dollars and euros, and it's a nice material to work with because it's so sort of loaded with lots of different meanings and readings and connotations, and money itself is like a map because of where it comes from and the fact that it tells you a lot about a particular time or a regime or place. Or this is a dress made. This is the show at the Royal Geographic Society, the Creative Compass. A dress made of money completely based on the style of 1870s British female explorers, using money with female figureheads on it, which are quite hard to find. And this is an image of that show. And that's my last slide. So I won't say any more because the 15 minutes is up, but if anyone has more questions, then please feel free to either ask us now or I suppose when we're downstairs in the gallery as well.